Hi, my name is Marilyn, and if you're new here, welcome. I work as a coach, and today I want to talk about something that has been on my heart for a long time, and it's about how to stop proving your worth. So before we dive into this whole video and how you can find out, okay, am I proving my worth? In which areas am I still trying to perform? I need you to know that it's very normal that you're probably going to recognize yourself in many of these things, or at least a couple of these things. And it's not necessarily problematic. However, I think for a lot of people, it does get in the way. So either with work or in romantic relationships or in friendships or any other place, I think it's really, really important to find out, where am I trying to prove my worth? Where am I performing? What am I doing that actually keeps my desires much further away than I actually want? So in essence, proving your worth, what I mean with that is that you're really trying to show the world, show other people, or even try to show yourself that you are enough, that you are valuable, that what you know, what you do, who you are, that it comes with a lot of value. So that's what I mean with that. So let's just dive straight into it. What are some of the signs that show you that you are trying to prove your worth? Number one, and I see this so often, and I've had my own experience with this many years ago. This was something I did very often, and that is oversharing. Over-explaining, oversharing. So let's give an example. When someone's asking you why you did or didn't do something, you tend to give them an answer that's so long. For example, you're at work and your coworker asks, why did you not finish that task? Instead of saying, I haven't had the time yet, you say, oh, I was meant to do that thing, but then the other coworker called me and I still had to finish my lunch and there were a lot of people walking around, so I wasn't concentrated, but I'm gonna make sure that I will do it on a later point today. What you're doing here is you're really giving them so much information because you want them to understand your perspective and to know that you did have the right intentions, but you just couldn't do it. But what you're doing is you're trying to over-explain why something happened or didn't happen. And you don't need to do that. Now, let's be clear. Of course, let's say you're a CEO and you have people working for you. If they don't do the stuff that they're supposed to do, of course you're gonna ask them, and that's very normal. But what I mean is more from the other person's perspective. If you're oversharing, over-explaining, then there's something underneath that. This can also happen in romantic relationships. So let's say your partner is asking you something like, hey, why did you say that to me? And inside you feel like, okay, I really want to explain to my partner that I didn't have that intention and all these things happened and I want them to make sure that they understand my way of thinking. It could be that you start over-explaining and oversharing, but that's not necessary. And it's a sign that you're trying to prove that whatever you did is justified, or whatever you need or whatever your needs were in the past, that they are justified. And you take away your power if you do this, because people feel it. They feel that what I always think about is that as if you're in the middle of the ocean and you can't swim and you're trying to really do everything you can to keep your head above. That's what I imagine when people are over-explaining themselves. And I think, relax, just swim slowly, take it easy, and don't try so hard to over-explain. Sign number two, you are a perfectionist. You're trying to make everything you do perfect at work, or in your relationship, or in your house. Maybe you're organizing everything so perfectly that everything is super clean, those kind of things. But especially with work, you don't want to make the mistakes, because then you would have to deal with the feeling of that you might not be worthy. Which of course you are worthy, but we will get into that on a later stage in this video. It's more important to understand that if you notice that you're trying to be the best at everything and whatever you do, it could be that you are performing. Because let me make one thing clear, I do love excellence. I love delivering quality myself as well, and I also love it when I get something and the quality is really good. So I'm not saying that you should just only do half of the work, but this is about you, okay? So if you notice this, that you're trying to make everything perfect, ask yourself, am I trying to avoid showing any error, any mistake, or any behavior that might not be perfect? And in that way, avoiding that someone would critique me. Because that's very often what people that are performing are so afraid of. You might be so afraid that you're not enough that you try to do everything perfect. Sign number 3, you're always trying to be productive. You have a very, very hard time relaxing, and you only feel like you've accomplished enough things if you've done a lot of things. So instead of being, you really value doing. So let's say if you would, okay, let me ask you a question. What does a good day look to you? And think about that in terms of work, for example, or even in your leisure time. What would a good day look like? If you're gonna evaluate this question and think, okay, a good day would be, I would get some work done, I would do my sports, I would clean up my house, that would really look like a good day. There's a really good chance that you are connecting your worth with doing instead of being. So people that are performing and proving their worth, very often they cannot relax. If they're doing something that's not productive, they feel guilty, they feel like they're getting behind, all those type of things. And that touches upon a very important, deep-rooted belief, and that is, I'm only valuable by what I do or by what I know, instead of I am valuable because of who I am. And trust me, this is something that I had to go through as well, because I was so focused on, okay, my worth comes from how much I know, how much I do, how much I perform, and I just couldn't believe that it was valuable to just be. Because I would think, okay, and then what? If you spend time with someone and you're just being, how does that deliver value? But that's exactly the thing that I had to change for everything to go so much better in my life. So that includes my romantic relationships, my business. If you start to believe and really embody that your worth comes from who you are, from the energy you bring, that does not mean that you just sit back and let everyone else work really hard for you. No, it's a different thing. And this is a bit of a deeper inner work that I'm talking about, because that means you would have to reprogram your mind that your worth comes from who you are. Once you know that your worth comes from who you are, you will choose different things that you will do and different things that you will share or that you want to learn about to still bring value to the table. And I know that we are all so connected, because many of my clients, they go through the same thing, that in different ways. It could be through work, it could be through romantic relationships, friendships, even the way they feel about themselves. They always have some sort of critique towards themselves, that they're not doing enough or being enough, that they're not productive enough, not disciplined enough. But that is not true. And when you start to rewire that, and again, I'm coming already with the practical solutions, but then things will change for you. But okay, first notice, is that something that's happening to you? Sign number 4 is that you're very sensitive to feedback. So when someone is giving you feedback, it might be constructive, might not be, but in those moments you feel so attacked. You feel like you want to defend yourself, you feel like someone is being very rude, or you even feel like you're shutting down and you start talking really bad about yourself, like, oh my goodness, how could I have done that? How could I have made that mistake? Or the point here is that if you have a hard time letting feedback get into your field, that's a huge sign that you might be performing and proving your worth, and that you connect your worth to something external. And that brings me to the next sign, so that you can see that you are chasing validation, is you only value external validation. So let's say you've had a week where you've been doing really well with your business, or you've been having a really good time with your partner, or whatever it is. Only when you get a compliment from someone else, or you get some sort of validation, even with social media, great example. Let's say you've done something that you were very excited about, or you were very afraid to do it. You post something and nobody likes your video, or nobody likes your post. If you notice that you start doubting yourself, like, oh, maybe it wasn't that big of a deal. Even though it was such a big deal for you, that's another sign. Because then, if the other way around, it works as well. Because if you do something on social media and you get a lot of views or likes or those kind of things, and you start to feel really good about yourself and you think, oh, I'm doing so well, just give it a couple of days or a couple of weeks and boom, that will drop, because it's validation from the external world and it will never ever fulfill you. It will not give you the same feeling of validation and something that's so much deeper than what you're getting right now. So keep that in mind. Don't feel bad about yourself, because we do live in a culture where this is very much encouraged, you know, likes and subscriptions and all those kind of things. So it's very normal that in a sense we all experience this, but it's just really valuable to think about this and to see it for yourself that you do have this pattern. And the last sign is the imposter syndrome. If you notice that you have the imposter syndrome, which is feeling like a fraud, especially when you're being successful, you might start to think, oh my gosh, they're going to find out that I'm not actually that good, or they're going to find out that I don't know enough, or that I'm not the best in what I do. That's the imposter syndrome. So you start to be really harsh on yourself, and you're going to be very afraid that people find out. They find out that you're not actually that good at your job, or you're not actually the best of a partner, or all those things point towards the imposter syndrome. Now, to give you a better understanding of where this comes from, I'm going to give you 3 main reasons or main causes of where this comes from. And the first one is conditional love. If in either your upbringing or in a larger phase of your life, you've experienced that your worth came from how you performed. Let's say you were a really friendly kid, or you were doing really good at school, or your parents would always tell you that you should get higher grades, or that it was never enough, or in some way telling you that your worth comes from what you do. It comes from your performance. That could also happen in a later stage in your life. So for example, in relationships, let's say your partner or ex-partner was only happy with you if you did something for them. So then you also start to program your mind that my worth comes from what I do. So that's reason number 1 where it can come from. Cause number 2 is a bit more ancient, because this comes from way back when we were still living in tribes. We had to be included in the tribes to survive. Because in a group, it's so much easier to survive if something happened, because you can help each other and you have a community, than when you are alone. And from the beginning of time, status was already a thing in some way or the other. It's not the same as it is right now, but we always valued some sort of status and that you were included in the group. So it's very normal that you start to think and compare yourself also to other people. Am I valuable? Am I good enough? Do I have enough worth? So those things come from a much deeper rooted belief and deeper rooted cause that are just in our biology. And this will just help you to understand, okay, I understand where this is coming from. I want to stay included. I want to prove that I'm good enough. But in today's world, we live in such a different way. And there's always a healthy balance. Of course, you want to make sure that you're kind to people. Of course, you want to do good things, because otherwise you will pay for it in another way. So there's always this balance. Okay, I want to be included in a group. At the same time, I don't want to prove my worth, because deep down, I don't believe that I am enough. And that brings me to cause number 3, the deep-rooted belief that you are not enough. I don't think that I know anyone who has never experienced even a thought or a period in their lives where they felt like they were not enough. It's so human. And I think it's very important to understand that sometimes we can trick ourselves into thinking, oh, but I don't have that belief. I think I'm enough. And then when you look at the way you are living, the way you're trying to prove yourself at work by working over hours, or maybe in your relationships, you're trying to please everyone and you're not setting boundaries, or in your social life, you're always trying to be the funny person, always entertaining everyone. then you are still showing that you don't believe that you're enough. But the truth is, it does take some, reflective capacity to understand that you might not always see your belief straight away. So think about that. Where in your life are you proving yourself? In what areas? And this is the first thing. It's not very pretty to acknowledge, like, okay, I see it right there. I might think that I'm not good enough in this area or that area, but this is the first step. Now, how do we break this cycle? How do we break this pattern of proving ourselves, thinking that we're not good enough? How do we do it? All right, I have 5 tips for you. They're very practical. Some of them are a bit more theoretical, but I promise you, if you do this, you will see how it will change your life. The first tip, and this is going to be the foundation for all the other tips, is separate being from doing. And what I mean with this is I need you to actively remind yourself that your worth is separated from your achievements. Now look, I'm very ambitious myself, so I'm not saying if you have ambitions that it's wrong or that you shouldn't think about your achievements. Not at all. Again, it's about a balance here. What I'm saying is that if you actively remind yourself daily, my worth comes from who I am, not from what I do, not from what I know, not from what I achieve, it will reprogram your mind. It will take some time, but you will notice if you keep reminding yourself of this fact, you will start to behave different, you will start to take different actions, and things will change because you're not doing things from performance anymore. You're doing things because you know that you are worthy, and you'll know that your worth comes from who you are and from your energy and not from your achievement. So actively think about this. You can write it down in a journal, or even the fact that you're watching this video and you're imprinting it in your head, that's going to be enough, but keep doing it regularly. Tip number 2, and I used to hate this one. I used to have such a, it felt so bad for me in the beginning, and it tells me everything about how I was thinking of what my worth would come from. And it is block time in your agenda to do something unproductive. So that means not reading books that are self-help related or business related, not going to the gym to get better or stronger, not even listening to podcasts or journaling for the sake of improving yourself, none of that. So you're gonna pick something that is so unproductive, something that has no purpose, just something that you like. For example, I bought this, it's like what is it called? I think mantra coloring. Anyways, I started to color a bit more. Another thing that I absolutely love is going into the ocean. If you don't have the ocean close to you, maybe there's a swimming pool or a little lake that you can dive into, not for the sake of doing something that's going to help you, but just enjoying it. I remember when I was on holiday with one of my friends, and we would just run into the ocean because it was very cold and just be little kids. Didn't have any purpose. People were sometimes looking at us like, what are they doing? But it felt so good just to be a kid again and do something, okay, that doesn't make sense. Even doing things like going to one of those playgrounds close to you. Go with a friend or go alone and go to a playground to just have fun. Like go off the slide or start hanging into something that you can find there. But do something that doesn't bring you anything. I'm sure there are way more examples that you can think of. You can also start walking without a purpose. You can, I don't know, change your house for fun, move around furniture, whatever it is. Find something that has no purpose and block it in your agenda, because I assure you, you won't do it if it's not in your agenda. Because you will have this to-do list in your head and think, okay, first I'm going to do all these things before I can do something unproductive. Biggest lesson I learned again and again this year, but also last year. Every time I make time to not work on my business is growing. It's crazy. And at the same time, it makes so much sense, because if you keep on pulling and pushing and you think, okay, I'm going to do everything I can, I'm going to put all my energy into that, you will be burned out. And if you take time to relax, trust me, it's more about the frequency that you're going to be on than the work that you're doing. And okay, that's for a whole other video, but it's going to be much more about raising your frequency and doing something that makes you feel good, because the universe will respond to how you feel. And if you're only going to work and you're only going to perform, you're not going to feel good. And then all the experiences that will make you feel good, they won't come to you, because they will not be attracted to that. Tip number 3 is question your inner critic. What I mean is that whenever this voice is coming up of, okay, you should be doing something, or you should feel guilty because you haven't done anything, you could work harder, you could perform better, you could have done so much more, ask yourself, whose voice is this? Is this actually my voice? Or am I hearing a teacher from in the past, or an ex, or a parent, or a partner, or co-worker? Start to think about, is that inner critic really yours? Or is it someone else? Someone that has influenced you for thinking that you should be performing, even though you might not even agree that you should. So start asking questions and find out, where is this coming from? And even if it does come from someone else, start to ask questions like, do I agree with that? Or even better, do I want to have the life that that person has? Do I want to take advice from this person based on their life? Do they have a life that I admire so much that I think, okay, you know what? I'm going to listen to you. Because, very often those critical thoughts, they come from people that don't have the life that we desire. So that's something else. You can journal about this. You can even, what I like to do, this is something that I discovered only, I think, about 2 years ago. So I haven't been doing that for a very long time. Journaling, I have been doing that since I was 5. I have many journals. But I love going for walks and then create a voice memo with just a brain dump. Sometimes I pretend like I'm talking to someone or to my coach, or sometimes I don't pretend I'm talking to anyone. I'm just spitting it out. But it helps me so much because I'm walking and I'm making this voice memo, and because I'm walking, things are flowing. So I would really recommend, ask yourself one of these questions, go for a walk and record your answer. You don't even have to listen to it. Just do it. See what works. Tip number 4, and I love this one. Practice with being silent. Practice with being silent around other people, or when they ask you a question. And there's this quote that I absolutely love, and it says, I let my energy speak for itself. If you're a performer and you've been oversharing, over-explaining, this is going to help you so much. If you're the type of person that starts to overthink everything and think, should I have done something different? Should I have said something different? Try this. Let your energy speak for itself and say less. So let's go back to that example of your coworker asking you, why didn't you do that task? All you're going to say is, I haven't had the time yet. And then shut up. Shut up. It's going to be uncomfortable because you're going to feel like, okay, but they need to know why. They need to know. If they want to know why, they will ask you. Okay, how come? Then you can give them an answer. That's one thing. And then another thing, if you are in a room with people that are sort of consciously or subconsciously pushing you to prove yourself and to explain yourself, don't say anything. Just keep your mouth shut. You have to let go of the need to explain everything. And it's going to be so extremely powerful. I'm going to give you a little story. I remember when I was doing it was a job interview with about 10 people. I felt that everyone wanted to prove themselves. And okay, that makes sense, right? You're applying for a job. You really want this job. There are 10 other people. Of course, you have to show who you are, what you can do. But it was so interesting because you could see there were 2 types of people. There was a group that was really trying and explaining and talking a lot and saying like, oh, this is what I've done, this is what I would do. And they were very present in the room with their words. And there was another group that was a lot smaller, but they didn't talk a lot. And yet we could feel their presence. We could feel they know their worth. They know that they don't have to put other people down or be the loudest in the room, because they know my energy speaks for itself. And okay, guess what happens? These people got the job. The other people did not get the job. And it's so counterintuitive, because it feels like, okay, but I need to show who I am. I need to show what I can do. Yes, imbalance. And sometimes your silence will speak so much louder than your words. Okay, and then the last tip that I'm going to give you is, with everything you do, ask yourself, am I doing this because I feel inspired and because I want to do this? Or am I doing this because of fear or because I want to prove myself? So another example, a couple of years ago, someone asked me for a job, and I was quite young and I wanted to make some extra money. And in the moment, I remember that I hated that job. It would have been terrible. It would have been terrible. But this person, they asked me like, hey, this is what you would be doing. You would make a lot of money. And I was thinking to myself, okay, am I gonna take this job? Because I felt like, okay, I don't have so much experience. I'm quite young. I just finished my studies, but I actually want to be an entrepreneur. So I sat down with myself and I thought, okay, why would I say yes to this job? What would it bring me? I thought, okay, it will give me some financial stability, but it's also gonna take my time and my energy doing something that I absolutely hate. And I realized, if I would have taken that job and I wouldn't have started my own business, oh my goodness, I would have been so sad. That's not what my heart wants. And I really think that with everything that you do in life, you can find out whether that's because you want to do it or because you are afraid of something, or even afraid that something will happen if you don't. This also has a lot to do with the scarcity mindset. That's a different topic, but I think it's very helpful if you have to make decisions that are difficult. One, is it because I would just love to do it and I feel inspired to do it? Or number two, is it because you are afraid of what might happen if you don't do it, or afraid for the other option? And then you will know which decision you'll have to make. Because the thing is, you don't need to get to a point where you're not afraid to make certain decisions. You can just make decisions, choose things that are very scary, but that feel aligned. Because things will always work out. They just will. They just will. Not the way that we always want to, but things always work out. So you might as well choose what's going to help you and what makes you feel good. Because even if, let's say it would have been about a job. Even if you didn't take this job that you didn't want, and then after a couple of weeks you're running out of money and you would feel like, okay, maybe I will start doing the dishes in a restaurant. There are so many jobs. There are so many things you can do. You can make money online, but you can also make it easier to just go around in your neighborhood and do something like that. So that's something to really keep in mind. It's going to help you so much. Also, something very exciting before we're going to finish this video is that I am hosting my first course on the 2nd of May. So the course Radiant and Magnetic will start on the 2nd of May. 8 weeks long. We have like 1.5 to 2 hour sessions on a Saturday. So for the people that are working during the week, I got you. We're going to do so much inner work on how to receive, on to lose the fear of being seen, how to become this radiant version of yourself, and that you attract stuff to you instead of pushing and doing everything you can to just make things happen. So anyways, there's a lot more information on my website. I will link it below. So if you want to sign up, you can sign up there. And apart from that, I'm really happy that you watched this video. Also, let me know in the comments what resonated, what didn't, or if there are any topics that you would like to see. And then I wish you a beautiful day.